A Wandsworth charity is offering free dispute resolution and conflict coaching to Wandsworth residents. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, cases of conflict between neighbours have doubled. Disputes between parents over contact with their children have also increased, and intergenerational conflict between members of the same household is becoming a problem. Wandsworth Mediation Service provides free mediations to residents of Wandsworth and training workshops to help people communicate better and manage conflict. Abby Chitty has been there to discover more.
Wandsworth Mediation Service believes that conflict will increase even further during and after the second lockdown, as people are confined to their homes with one another. Sharon Crooks is a trustee of the charity and a volunteer community mediator. What kind of work do you do in particular?
Well, in community mediation, we're often asked to help neighbours who are in dispute with each other, typically about things like noise, maybe use of shared areas, bins being put out, or it could be in a family context, typically between generations in a family, and maybe particularly during lockdown, tensions have risen where people are sharing a space. They're not used to having to be around each other quite so much. They might get into conflict, so we'll help them with our intergenerational mediation service. And the other thing that we do, in addition to helping people directly in conflict, is we provide training to help people develop the skills so that if in the future they get into conflict, they might be able to draw on those skills and maybe either navigate away from the conflict or be able to engage in it in a constructive way so they come up with a good solution and they don't need a third person to help them.
Obviously, we're in a lockdown again. Has there been a kind of a small spike since the beginning of November?
Yeah, we haven't really been tracking the numbers as recently as that, but we are seeing a steady number of requests coming in every day for us to help people who are in conflict. There's a lot of anxiety out there because the whole uncertainty of the environment, the economy, people's futures, people's studies, people's hopes and dreams causes a huge amount of anxiety. And when we're anxious as human beings, we're more likely to engage in conflict behaviours because it's a sort of coping strategy, not always a helpful one.
What's sort of your success rate?
Yeah, it has a very high success rate, and I suppose it depends on how you measure success. So there might be a specific thing that neighbours are in conflict about, like noise, and one of the agreements they might reach would be that people will be more careful about noise they make within certain windows of time. But we have had more serious complaints or issues that neighbours have had between each other, where once we actually get them talking to each other, they realise that some of the stories they've been telling themselves about what the other person's doing and why they're doing it are not actually true. And so they're actually able to engage as neighbours. And one of my favourite mediations ended with one of the neighbours saying to the other, "Yeah, it's all peace and love, man." And they'd been literally, police had been called, people had been threatening, people were looking down from their balconies and going, "If this keeps on, I'm going to call the police again." And then two men in this case, who had been in serious conflict at risk of even hurting each other, were able to have a conversation, understand each other's perspectives. So it can be hugely transformative, not just resolve the immediate conflict, but actually transformative of neighbourhood relationships where people understand each other better because they've been able to have a conversation in a safe space.
Phil Guthrie is a conflict resolution coach who has been offering free virtual sessions to residents during lockdown. What does being a conflict resolution coach involve?
So that's basically where we can't mediate because we don't have both sides of a dispute, but we can help individuals to explore the conflict they're in, provide a space for them to have a conversation with a trained professional who's there to listen, explore what's going on for them.
What tips do you have for people who are embroiled in conflict?
That's a good question. I would say a couple of things. Firstly, when you're in a conflict, things tend to start to speed up and they get a bit more emotional and charged, and you can kind of almost feel it in your body sometimes. So a good tip is to kind of pause and take a couple of deep breaths. Try and slow your heart rate down a bit, I think. Maybe even think about something positive. So we often do that as part of the coaching, which might not solve the conflict, but can put you in a better frame of mind. And then just thinking carefully how you would, so rather than just reacting, you can think how you would like to respond to a conflict. So that's the first tip, is kind of pause and breathe. The second one would be to be curious, both about what's going on for you, so why you're reacting in the way that you're reacting, but also to be curious about the other people who might be in the conflict and why they might be reacting in the way that they're reacting. And again, that allows you to step back, get a bit of perspective. We sometimes talk about put your curious face on. So you kind of just trying to think, okay, I'm seeing behavior, but what might be going on behind that behavior? What might they be feeling? That kind of thing. And then the last one I was going to give is to listen. So to be prepared to take the time to listen, I guess. Try listening first by suspending your assumptions and trying to think through what they might be feeling or going through. And that can help to de-escalate situations, because sometimes it can be quite scary. But actually just listening, it doesn't mean that you're agreeing with everything that's being said, but it can just de-escalate and take the temperature out of the situation and can help you gather information about what's going on for other people.